So I want to have us talk today about this thing called faith.
Yeah, just you and me again.
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting to me that there are two fundamental words that you just can't live as a Christian without understanding these two words, faith and grace.
It's good.
There's no understanding of the work of God. There's no understanding of the gospel. There's no understanding of my identity as a child of God. There's no understanding of the plan and purpose of God for the ages without these two words.
Mm-hmm.
And yet what troubles me is the degree of confusion that surrounds these terms. Like when I'm doing a parenting conference and I will talk about parenting your children with grace, people think I mean to be permissive.
Yeah.
To just
Let them do whatever they want.
turn your back and do whatever.
Yeah.
But grace isn't permissive. Grace never calls wrong right.
Mm-hmm.
Because if wrong were right, there would be no need for grace.
Right, of course.
So grace, the thing that grace does is recognize the wrong of wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than moving away from you in rejection or toward you in condemnation, grace moves toward you with mercy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's confusing to people. What does grace look like, and how does God's grace operate in my life, and how do I then respond to another in grace? How would a marriage be shaped by grace? And the same thing is with this thing called faith. I've said this on this podcast already, but people have this circular thing they do. Well, it means to believe, and believe means to trust, and trust means to have faith, and there you're right back at the beginning.
Right.
So I think it's important for us to just do what podcast people call a deep dive into this thing called faith. And I want to...
Well, you realize we are podcast people now.
Yeah.
You know, we've been podcast people now.
I want to read a passage which I think is one of the paradigmatic, foundational passages in all of Scripture. Mm-hmm. This is Romans 1, 16 and 17. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. For in it, in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith for faith. As is written, the righteous shall live by faith. Now, first of all, it says that this gospel thing is the power of God, which should get your attention.
Yes.
And then it says, in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed. But then it says, the righteous ones, that's people who are covered now by the righteousness of Christ, who stood as our substitute in life and death and resurrection, shall live by faith. Now, if I could say to you anything in your life, you need X in order to live, I would get your attention. Mm-hmm. That's what this passage is saying. This thing is so important. It's connected to life.
To life itself, yeah.
Life itself.
Yeah.
The righteous will live by this thing. Mm-hmm. That means spiritually, it's at the level of oxygen. Mm-hmm. It's at the level of food and water.
Food and water,
You just can't live as one of God's children without faith.